Random fun project today. I got a relatively free to me 440 big block. I got a remember that 283 swap Jaguar? I got it back for free. Then I traded it for this. I kind of knew there was something wrong with it, but I figured the kid really wanted it, and I'm like, meh, whatever. But this is one of those instances where you start tearing into stuff and you just scratch your head the whole time saying, why? Just why? So, this motor has a trashed camshaft and that dowel pin there is busted off. Cam bearings are garbage, but it has a new double roller timing chain. You can see right here, new head gasket material. That's brand new head gaskets. And the cylinder heads, they're in the garage. The valves look like they've been sandblasted and cleaned and all that and reinstalled. But then you got these dirty old pistons. And so it's like there's this weird hodgepodge of like new and old parts. The trans, of course, it's been, pressure washed and painted, of course, and I guess that's how you rebuild an engine these days, is if you know how to operate a rattle can, you're an engine builder. But then this here, the torque flight, is an interesting case. So, old torque converter. Then you look in here, there's a new seal on there, and that front cover plate looks very, very clean. So, this was supposed to be a rebuilt engine and trans combo. It looks like the trans was rebuilt, and then somebody had one too many beers and decided to put together a big block one night. But this is strange. I've got to say, it's a really unusual combination of throwing new parts on an old motor and then calling it rebuilt. Well, the kid I got it from was 27 and very new to hot rodding, and I think what happened was the guy who sold this motor to him, it just straight up sold him a bill of goods. So I want to have a discussion with you guys today, a little bit of advice for young hot rodders. You're new to the sport, just starting out, and let's say you find a really good deal. Now, he paid $2,500 for this combo here. That motor, worth 500 bucks at best. That trans, if it's rebuilt, worth $1,000. So you're talking, you paid $2,500 for, at best, generously, a $1,500 package. I mean, look at this, look at this. So, starter, oh, look at this nice new starter. Nope. And hey, look at that new double roller timing chain and a new water pump, and look at these trash cam bearings. Just like, what is going on here? So if you were going to, get yourself some old truck or rat rod, hot rod project, whatever, and I want to give some advice to the young people here. If you are going to buy an engine, buy a transmission, you need to ask all of the right questions. So like here's like a little short list of like some questions you should ask if some quote unquote mechanic is going to try to sell you something for a couple grand. You'd better ask stuff like this, like, has it been bored out? What is the oversize of the bore? Does it have new cam bearings? Did you plasti-gauge the crankshaft? That's an important one. Admittedly, I don't normally do that, but when you have a machine shop turn a crankshaft and put in new bearings, you get these little tiny strips of plastic that you will actually lay down on the crankshaft up in here, and you bolt everything back together, and it'll squeeze that plastic outward. It's like wax, plasticky, waxy stuff. And however many centimeters it is across tells you how tight the bearing tolerances are, and that's how you know whether or not the bearings are good. So fire off some of the hard questions. Say, is it plasti-gauged? Did you use engine assembly lube? Hey, pull the intake manifold off for me. Let me see down in the valley. Here's the valley in this big block. Do you see all of this rust? Like just little chunks of rust. That's not the engine block. Let's go to the dumpster. Let me show you something real cool here. Let me go to the dumpster, and I'm going to show you what this quote-unquote mechanic did. And I can't believe this. I don't think I've ever seen this before on a motor. It's not locked up. And it doesn't look like it's been sitting outside, but for some stupid reason, the intake valley pan gasket has a gaping rust hole in it. So look out for stuff like this. If you see this, if you see shit like this, it's not rebuilt. As far as transmission goes, I've rebuilt a transmission once. I smoked it in 10 miles because I'm just not a transmission guy. But if they claim the transmission has been rebuilt, you either need to see pictures of that exact one torn apart, or you need a receipt from the builder. One of the things you might want to look for is, look, this has got a nice shiny coat of paint on it, right? That means nothing. That means nothing to me. What you want to look for is indicators that maybe this was torn into. Sorry, there's F-16s flying overhead. I live next to an Air Force base. But if you look up close, that's a brand new seal. And see how like this is all greasy here on the bell housing. This is called the bell housing, but this front cover plate, that looks really, really clean. So my gut tells me that this has potentially been torn into and cleaned and rebuilt, maybe. If you look at like another transmission that was rebuilt several thousand miles ago, it's probably not going to look the same. So let's go look at the old Travelall here, and you'll see, like on that, you'll actually see a little bit of like grease and dirt buildup around the front cover plate, which tells you that there's definitely some miles on it. Like this one was rebuilt and it had, I don't know, probably 10,000 miles put on it before the motor died. But you can see it doesn't look super clean, which tells you that this transmission hasn't been taken apart in a while. In this case, I had this transmission rebuilt in 2017, I think. So that was, as of the time of this recording, about 5 years ago. So you can see there's a little bit of dirt and decay on there. So there's all sorts of stuff you want to look for when you're buying an engine from somebody. But the first thing you should be willing to say, or what you should say is, do you got any pictures of it torn apart? Hey, pull the oil pan off. Let me see the insides. Is it clean? Is it rebuilt? Well, prove it. But you'd never, like this poor kid, this dude totally took advantage of him. And you'll put his good faith in a mechanic, thinking that the mechanic was going to do what he said he did. I'm sorry, I know a lot of you guys out there are probably certified and probably really good, but hey, never trust a mechanic's word. I'm sorry, I've been working on cars since I was 16. Never trust a mechanic at his word. Ask for the receipts. Unless it's somebody you've been buddies with for 10 years, don't just take his word for it. Because what happens is you'll shell out $2,500 and you're going to end up with a Chrysler Big Block that needs to be completely rebuilt. Always ask the questions, ask for receipts, look for pictures, look for any indications. If you have any doubts whatsoever, don't buy it. Go with your gut too. Because this poor kid trusted somebody and they took advantage of him and they sold him a garbage motor. I mean, that's when it turns over freely, it can totally be rebuilt. But he wasn't buying a core, he was trying to buy an engine and something he planned on driving, and you can't drive with this. This is ridiculous. You always need to be skeptical whenever you're buying an engine off of Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, whatever. If they say it's a project, great, then we all know going in. But if they tell you that it's rebuilt, you need to ask for the pictures. You want to make sure those pistons are shiny and silver. There needs to be no junk in the valley. You know, you got to look for all these indicators. Look how like black and dirty this is. This thing's not been rebuilt. It's not been cleaned. And don't let people take advantage of you. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to get into hot rodding and somebody has what seems like a really good deal, oh, $2,500 for a big block and a transmission, that sounds like a decent deal. It clearly wasn't. Always ask questions, go with your gut, and if you are very inexperienced, if you have a mechanic friend, bring him with you. Let him ask the questions so that way you don't get screwed over. Because I don't like seeing young people get treated this way, because then it kind of ruins the hobby. It makes us as mechanics look bad. It tarnishes the reputation. It hurts the sport. It hurts everything. So if you are one of those assholes who sells junk, stop. Okay? Till we meet again, stay gold.